Monty's Shadow Clone. While regular shadow clones already let a shinobi create a handful of functional duplicates, this advanced version, developed by the second Hokage, takes things to a completely different level. With this jutsu, the user can produce hundreds, even thousands, of clones simultaneously. It sounds cool until you remember why it was sealed away. It eats chakra like crazy. Unlike illusory or fragile clones, these duplicates are legit. Each clone can think, move, fight, and learn independently. Everything they experience funnels back into the original user once the jutsu ends. That's why Naruto's training sessions using this technique were so insanely efficient, hundreds of clones learning at once, feeding him multiplied experience in minutes. But this efficiency comes with a brutal downside. Your chakra is evenly divided among every clone you make. The more clones, the thinner that chakra supply becomes. Unless you have an absolutely monstrous chakra pool, you're basically signing up to pass out, go into shock, or die if you push it too far. That's why the first Hokage banned it and locked it inside a forbidden scroll. But of course, Naruto Uzumaki, king of large-scale chaos, became the one user who could turn it into a signature move. He used it for everything, ranging from training, to overwhelming strong enemies like Pain, to literally multitasking across the entire Hidden Leaf once he became Hokage. Still, even with all its benefits, the multi-shadow clone technique remains a forbidden jutsu because of how ridiculously dangerous it is for any shinobi without superhuman stamina. Byakugō Seal. This is one of the oldest medical techniques in the Naruto world. Dating back to Hagoromo's era, Sakura eventually perfected it, but that perfection took generations of development. Unlike offensive jutsu, this one is all about long-term chakra storage. The user gathers and compresses chakra into a single point on their body, typically the forehead, forming a diamond-shaped seal. The amount of chakra required is insane, and gathering it takes years. If you mess up the accumulation process, you can completely disrupt your body's energy pathways. But once activated, the seal floods the user's body with the stored chakra, drastically boosting physical strength and regeneration. It enables techniques like the Creation Rebirth, allowing the user to heal from fatal wounds without even forming hand signs. In the case of Sakura, the seal also connects her to the giant slug Katsuyu, letting her distribute healing chakra to multiple people across an entire battlefield. And yes, the diamond mark stays visible even after activation, sort of like a warning label that says, "Hey, don't mess with me today." We saw how vital the seal was when Tsunade survived normally fatal strikes from Madara's Susanoo. Sakura, on the other hand, activated her own seal during the Fourth Great Ninja War after spending 3 full years storing chakra. She shattered 10 Tails clones and kept entire platoons alive through Katsuyu's remote healing. Despite its incredible utility, the technique is still classified as forbidden due to how easily misuse can lead to death. It requires unbelievable chakra control, stamina, and patience, and most ninja lack at least one of those. In the wrong hands, the seal can prolong battles in dangerous ways, and the regeneration it provides doesn't come without lasting consequences on the body. Life Reincarnation. A technique from the hidden sand. At its core, this jutsu is a medical ninjutsu with a horrifying price, your own life. Originally, it was a method designed to enhance puppets, infusing them with massive chakra reserves. But over time, it was adapted into an emergency resurrection technique. The process is cruelly simple. The user transfers every last drop of their life energy and chakra into another person. If the target is still barely alive, they're healed. If they're already dead, the technique brings them back. Either way, the caster dies instantly. Only one person in the series ever used it, Chiyo, the Sand Elder and Puppet Master. When Gaara lost his life after Akatsuki extracted Shukaku, Chiyo chose to atone for her past mistakes by sacrificing herself to bring him back. Even then, she didn't have enough power alone. Naruto supplemented her with his chakra to make the revival possible. After Chiyo's death, the technique vanished, since no one else knew how to perform it. And honestly, that's probably for the best. A technique that trades a life for a life might be noble. But it's too absolute, too irreversible, and too dangerous to ever be used in war. The Cursed Seals of Heaven and Earth. Developed by Orochimaru, these seals are rooted in the natural energy mutation that originates from Jugo. A man born with the ability to absorb natural energy passively and transform uncontrollably. Orochimaru experimented on that ability, extracting fragments of this reactive energy and embedding them into cursed seals. The strongest versions were given to Sasuke, the Heaven Seal, and Kimimaro, the Earth Seal. On paper, The seals look like a shortcut to power. They drastically amplify chakra and physical strength. And at the second stage, the user undergoes monstrous transformations that push their abilities past normal limits. But this power isn't free. The seals destabilize the mind, making the user vulnerable to emotional manipulation, and worse, to Orochimaru's direct control. They're literally engineered as leashes. Sasuke used the Heaven Seal throughout his early battles, especially during the Valley of the End fight against Naruto. Meanwhile, Kimimaro relied on the Earth Seal to stay alive long enough to engage in combat despite his terminal illness. Even Anko carried a Heaven Seal, though Hiruzen sealed hers away for safety. Orochimaru spread these seals as part of a long-term plan to cultivate vessels and loyal subjects. But the psychological and physical risks were enormous. Extended use could warp one's personality, degrade mental stability, or even completely override free will. Because of that, the cursed seals are considered extremely dangerous, tools of control disguised as power-ups. Rasenshuriken, or Rasenshuriken in some older translations. This technique represents a major turning point for Naruto, marking the shift from a kid relying on brute force and luck to a shinobi capable of advanced chakra manipulation and long-term strategic thinking. The Rasenshuriken was born from the idea of enhancing the Rasengan by adding nature transformation, specifically wind release. But the problem is, combining shape transformation and nature transformation at that level is insanely hard. Even legendary shinobi like Kakashi couldn't pull it off. Under Kakashi's supervision, Naruto pushed his limits and created something entirely new, a Rasengan wrapped in millions of microscopic wind blades, rotating fast enough to shred everything at a cellular level. The technique's power, especially in its early form, was horrifying. When Naruto first used it against Kakuzu, it didn't just defeat him, it annihilated the man's chakra network, sliced apart multiple hearts, and destroyed tissues beyond recognition. The side effect? It crushed Naruto's own arm from the feedback. Using the Rasenshuriken at close range meant Naruto was caught in his own microscopic hurricane. That's exactly why this jutsu was labeled as forbidden in its unstable form. But after Naruto learned Sage Mode, the entire game changed. He was finally able to throw the Rasenshuriken as a projectile, eliminating the self-damage entirely. From that point on, the technique evolved wildly, gaining new variants powered by Kurama's chakra, changing size, multiplying quantity, and even merging with tailed beast energy and truth-seeking orbs. During the Fourth Great Ninja War, the Rasenshuriken became a tactical weapon Naruto could adapt to any battlefield scenario. Effective against massive enemies and durable targets that would normally require multiple Jonin to bring down. Still, at its core, the Rasenshuriken remains forbidden for most shinobi. The risk of destroying your own chakra network is far too high. And only someone with Naruto's chakra reserves, Sage Mode mastery, and Tailed Beast synergy could unlock its full power safely. It's a perfect example of a technique that's world-changing, but only in the hands of an extremely specific person. The Reaper Death Seal, also known as the Shinigami Ritual. This is one of the most terrifying sealing techniques ever created by the Uzumaki clan. It's not subtle, it's not flexible, it's a brutal last resort technique used when you absolutely must take an enemy down, even at the cost of your own soul. The process starts with a forbidden ritual summoning the Shinigami, the death god. Once summoned, the spirit appears behind the caster, invisible to everyone except the user. The Shinigami then thrusts its hand through the caster's body, allowing it to grab and extract the soul of the target. When the target's soul is captured, both the caster's and the victim's souls are sealed forever inside the Shinigami's stomach, trapped in eternal combat with no escape. There is no surviving this technique. The moment you activate the Reaper Death Seal, you're already dead. It's just a matter of when your body stops moving. That's why it's classified as an absolute forbidden technique. It's a suicide move. Minato used it during the Nine Tails attack, sealing half of Kurama inside himself to protect the village. Hiruzen used it during Orochimaru's invasion, sealing the man's arms to stop him from performing ninjutsu. Later, Orochimaru himself used a special Shinigami mask to break the seal and release the souls trapped inside the death god's stomach, including the prior Hokage, so he could bring them back via Edo Tensei. The danger of the Reaper Death Seal speaks for itself. It's lethal, irreversible without another forbidden ritual, and permanently traps souls away from the afterlife. Because of that, it's rarely used and considered one of the darkest techniques ever produced by the Uzumaki clan. Edo Tensei, or Impure World Reincarnation. Created by Tobirama Senju and later perfected by Orochimaru and Kabuto. This jutsu takes the concept of revival to a morally disturbing extreme. To perform Edo Tensei, you need two things: DNA belonging to a deceased person and a living body to serve as a sacrifice. The user binds the dead person's soul to the living sacrifice, transforming their body into a copy of the resurrected individual. These resurrected bodies retain their abilities, kekkei genkei, memories, and personalities. They can regenerate infinitely from almost any injury. And worst of all, they're bound to the summoner's will unless the user chooses to give them some freedom. This technique is a nightmare because it fundamentally breaks the balance of the world. Death stops meaning anything. Shinobi who should have stayed legends of the past can be dragged back as weapons. During the Fourth Great Ninja War, Kabuto unleashed an entire army using Edo Tensei, former Kage, members of Akatsuki, legendary swordsmen, and even feared monsters of past generations. Before that, Orochimaru summoned Hashirama and Tobirama to fight Hiruzen, which gave us a glimpse of the jutsu's brutality. The biggest issue with Edo Tensei is that every revival costs a living person's life, because the sacrifice body is overridden entirely. The souls of the resurrected can't pass on until the contract binding them is broken. Destroying their bodies does nothing since they regenerate endlessly. It's the closest thing Naruto's world has to infinite war potential, which is why the technique is banned at the highest level. It's not just forbidden, it's considered an existential threat. The 8 gates. The body has 8 chakra gates positioned along the energy pathways. Normally, these gates regulate chakra flow to keep the body alive, preventing excessive strain. But by forcibly opening them, a shinobi can temporarily surpass human limitations. Opening the first few gates boosts strength, speed, and reflexes, but also tears muscles and exhausts the user rapidly. Opening mid-level gates starts damaging organs. And then there's the 8th gate, the gate of death. When opened, it floods the body with so much chakra that the user's heart beats beyond safe limits, eventually burning up the body from the inside. The power boost is insane, enough for Might Guy to push back 10 Tails Madara, forcing a god-like being into full defensive mode. But the cost is total cellular collapse and guaranteed death. Might Guy only survived because Naruto intervened with 6 paths power. Even then, Guy was left permanently injured, losing the ability to use one of his legs. The 8 gates embody a philosophy built on sacrifice, unmatched explosive power at the cost of one's life. That's why it's considered a last resort technique. Its strength is temporary and its consequences are irreversible. Izanagi and Izanami, 2 forbidden dojutsu of the Uchiha clan. These techniques are so extreme that even the Uchiha themselves banned them. Izanagi gives the user the ability to rewrite reality. Not illusion, actual reality. As long as the jutsu is active, anything that happens to the user can be dismissed as an illusion. Death, injury, defeat, none of it becomes permanent. You're basically cheating fate, but the cost is enormous. The Sharingan used to cast Izanagi becomes blind forever afterward. To maintain Izanagi for longer durations, you need Hashirama's DNA to stabilize the chakra drain. Danzo abused this by grafting 10 Sharingan onto his arm, giving himself a full minute of Izanagi in combat. Izanami, on the other hand, isn't about cheating fate, it's about enforcing it. Izanami traps the target in a sensory loop, forcing them to relive the same events over and over until they accept the truth about themselves. It's not meant for killing, it's meant to correct those who abuse Izanagi. The Uchiha created Izanami to keep their own clan members in check, especially those who became blinded by power. Madara used Izanagi to resurrect himself after his death in battle against Hashirama. Danzo weaponized it during his fight with Sasuke. And Itachi used Izanami to stop Kabuto, trapping him in an eternal loop until he let go of his obsession. Both techniques come with irreversible costs, the loss of a Sharingan and potentially eternal imprisonment for the target. Rinne Rebirth. Among all the forbidden jutsu that manipulate life and death, this one stands in a league of its own. Why? Because unlike Edo Tensei, where the revived become immortal puppets, Rinne Rebirth restores someone to true, living, breathing human form. No sacrifices, no vessels, no unnatural regeneration, just pure revival. But of course, the catch is devastating. The user dies instantly after casting it. Rinne Rebirth works by summoning the King of Hell, a godlike entity tied to the Rinnegan's power. Once summoned, the King of Hell opens its mouth and pulls the souls of the dead back into their original bodies, healing every wound and restoring every organ in the process. There doesn't seem to be a limit to how many people you can revive. Nagato revived an entire village, hundreds of people, after his battle with Naruto. That scale is unprecedented. But using the jutsu drained Nagato so severely that he aged rapidly, his hair turned white, and he passed away moments later. Obito also used this technique to revive Madara, returning him to full human form after being reanimated by Edo Tensei. Obito's body was already incredibly damaged by that point, and casting Rinne Rebirth hastened his death as well. The technique is a world-shifting ability. It can reverse entire wars, rewrite tragedies, and alter the balance of power in an instant. That's exactly why it's considered a supreme forbidden technique. No shinobi is meant to casually tamper with the natural cycle of life and death, especially not at the cost of their own life. And with that, we close out the list. 10 of the most dangerous, devastating, and story-defining forbidden jutsu in the entire Naruto universe. These aren't just cool power-ups, they're reflections of Naruto's deeper themes: sacrifice, responsibility, balance, and the price of chasing power.